Through the line, advertising underlined.
Savannah has partnered up with Nando's to launch the brand's spicy variant, Savannah Chilled Chili. The same crispy, dry Savannah that we all love as South Africans, with just a hint of ginger and chili. First, we're joined by Nando, marketing manager of Nando's, to tell us more about the spicy campaign. We're also joined by WPP Team Liquid group heads who brought this campaign to life. Next, we are joined by Savannah's marketing manager, Eugene Lansford, to tell us more about the campaign.
This is Chakalaka Norris, and he's hella spicy. So spicy that he once became a manager just to vurvaya Karen. So spicy, his voice assistant claps back.
When I'm not a basic bot like some.
And like, he's so spicy that if he wants your wig, you'll give it to him. Because you know he's doing you a favor. And Jazin, he's so spicy. He eats Nando's chicken in Savannah ads.
This is Savannah Chilled Chili. Drink it or don't, I don't care.
New Savannah Chilled Chili, crisp and dry with hints of chili and ginger.
Through the line, advertising underlined.
So tell us, what was your reaction when Savannah approached you for the collaboration?
Kaya, we were absolutely delighted and excited. The team at Savannah and the agency partners came with a very solid plan and had integrated and thought about our fit into this campaign so beautifully that it was a collaboration for us that made sense. We were excited when they approached us and, we all got involved in how this comes to life and how we showcase this great piece of work together.
What made this collaboration necessary?
So the collaboration makes sense on various levels, but if I had to pinpoint the top three, I'd say obviously food and a drink, delicious food and a refreshing beverage go very well together, right? So collaborating with a notable beverage brand and ourselves bringing the food to the table was already establishing the relationship so beautifully. The second reason that this collaboration made sense was if you think of chili, you can't tell the Nando story without telling the story of the African bird's eye chili. That is a key ingredient in our product, and Savannah integrating a chili into their new product development also created that synergy between both brands. And then lastly, in terms of the tone of both brands, it made sense for us to partner because there are similarities in how we communicate, both uniquely South African brands, both just exuding energy, and some may call it clapback, some may call it humor, whatever South Africans choose to call how we show up. It was consistent within both brands. So there's a variety of reasons why collaborating with Savannah on this product launch made sense, and we were absolutely thrilled.
I hear you speak about having food with a beverage.
Yes.
Normally quick service restaurants would go for soft drinks and so forth. Why the alcohol?
Look, the purpose of marketing will always be to highlight things that will make our consumers' lives easier, right? So we don't force things on people. What we do is showcase and signal some of the pairings that can happen in the spaces. Brands shouldn't be prescribing what drink goes with what food. But if you can signal a pairing that, is desirable and, makes sense, then it's more likely that customers and consumers will latch onto that. You've simplified their lives by showcasing something that is a power combination. So whether it's a soft drink or, in our instance, the chilled chili, it's a combo that we have highlighted for consumers, and we say give it a try.
So in terms of mostly brands or campaigns would only have one monolithic branding. What do you say to this dualistic kind of branding? How does it play from an above-the-line perspective to a digital kind of perspective and highlighting the brand awareness of both brands? How does that play?
it's critical to have visibility across multiple touch points, right? So not everyone will see the TV ad, but if you have presence on various channels, you allow more viewers to, see the ad and see what you're communicating. So the TVC was flighting, obviously, on TV, but the team at Savannah also made it available on social, which is where most people then picked up and saw Chakalaka Norris doing his thing in that ad. And then on our front, in our restaurants, we had, point of sale elements that are highlighting the meal that we were showcasing at the time and encouraging customers to buy, as well as the chilled chili beverage.
Okay. So I think it's new in this industry where we've got two kind of brands going on a campaign. How do you think this will play out in the industry? Just looking at the industry as a whole.
Collaborations are critical and, important to each brand's growth. What's important, though, as well, is to do so and collaborate with a brand where it makes sense. Some co-branding situations may feel a bit like a force fit. But if you align the two brands and there's synergy and there's a natural chemistry and the products merge beautifully together, then it's always encouraged. As Nando's, we often, collaborations aren't new to the Nando's brand. We often find partners, whether it's within the, direct competitor space or like in this instance where it's food and a drink, we find opportunities to collaborate where it makes sense and where the consumer is actually the hero in that situation.
What makes this campaign successful?
One of the reasons why this can be, viewed as a successful campaign is because the consumer was in mind when the campaign was crafted. Oftentimes we create beautiful work and the consumer becomes secondary. So if your consumer is the hero of your campaign and you're actually putting forward a solution that makes our consumers' lives easier, that's a determinant or a driver of success. So this campaign was crafted with South Africans in mind. You can see it, you can feel it. The advert itself is just, many people might not resonate with it if they're outside of, the bounds of South Africa, because there are a lot of South Africanisms that are in there. So it's a campaign that was crafted with South Africans in mind. It makes consumers' lives easier because here you're signaling something that often or some people may not have thought about. One of my favorite parts of the launch was going through some of the tweets and people just connecting the dots and saying, actually, I never even thought of that. You've not given a solution that people weren't even expecting, and you've done it in a truly unique and rich South African way.
My next question would be, how did you guys manage to get two different agencies in one room and to work together?
Oh, okay. It was not the easiest thing considering COVID and all the restrictions. People are working in, hybrid models, but we made it work. We had the virtual meetings, regular telephonic conversations. I do have to credit the WPP group as well as Savannah themselves, is any update that they were making throughout their creative process, they made sure to update us. So whether that's a quick phone call, can we jump onto a Teams meeting?
So what is this collaboration, what does it mean or translate to in terms of market share?
The campaign has had a real impact in, the measurement and our business metrics. We obviously paired it with our grande meals, and we've seen a significant lift since the campaign went live, where customers are buying our grande meals. We have two grande meals. So the one option is the Festa fries grande meal, as well as the hot pot grande meal as the second option. And since launching that campaign, we've seen a lift in purchases of those two meal offerings. And again, it goes back to the visibility that we have, particularly at the point of purchase. Customers tend to buy something that they see. So because we highlighted it very beautifully and we showcased Savannah chilled chili in our artwork, customers, some of them actually walk in, they might not even know the name of the product, but they'll say, I want that thing that goes with that drink. So we've seen a lift in purchases of our two grande meals.
How did you make sure that your brand is well represented in another brand's commercial, especially in an ad campaign?
What assisted with that part of the process was just making sure that there were regular and ongoing conversations between, the various stakeholders involved in putting this together. We also found that using some of our food specialists in the shoot, involving them in the actual shoot was critical because that also helps us represent our food beautifully. So the Savannah team were just like, anyone that you're comfortable that can prepare the food and represent it beautifully in the ad is invited on set. I unfortunately couldn't go down for the shoot. It took place in Cape Town, and I'm Joburg based. So it was me literally approving and collaborating in the process via Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, WhatsApp calls. That is how I was able to just make sure that the brand shows up beautifully in the Savannah ad. So it was just constant communication happening between all the parties that are involved and making sure that the right people are available for the shoot.
Thank you very much, Nando, for being with us and giving us insight into how this whole campaign rolled out.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Through the line, advertising underlined. Through the line, advertising underlined.
We're still talking Savannah, and joining us right now is WPP Liquid group heads. We've got Tyler Lambert, copywriter, as well as Kevin Khatebe, art director. So tell us, gentlemen, what was your reaction when Savannah came to you with this wild idea?
Just a lot of excitement. Obviously, it's the opportunity to launch a new variant in the first of all is obviously a big opportunity for Savannah and the Savannah brand. But then you add the Nando's layer on top of that and the collab. That's really such a great opportunity, and so it's just exciting and a little bit daunting, obviously, because that comes with a lot of pressure. You really want to get that right. But it was a challenge that we were just so down for, and excited and grateful that we had the opportunity to take on.
Tell us, what was the creative process behind this campaign?
Look, so much like any creative process that we follow in any campaign, there's a brainstorming that goes into it. However, with this one, it kind of did start with the conversation with the Nando's brand team with regards to the collaboration potentially happening. And from there, things were they happened over Zoom and Teams and all that stuff until we actually got to a really cool creative idea, but more so from us. And it was quite straightforward. Brainstorming and then obviously implementation to the TVC itself and all the other campaign touchpoints.
How would you say this campaign actually stretched your creativity? Speaking to the collabo between the two brands.
Look, any campaign, the specific challenges are going to be different. The challenge of this campaign was to find a way to marry these two brands, to do a piece where these brands lived together seamlessly. It didn't feel forced. That was the specific challenge of this campaign. But look, just getting to a creative concept on any kind of job is not an easy thing to do, and especially when you work with Savannah and then in this case Nando's as well, there's really a high bar. So we had to be on it creatively.
And the hardest part, I guess, to say is that there's no rule book to these things. Especially this kind of a campaign where there is a collaboration in place. There is no rule book, so every single step forward is a learning curve for everybody. Obviously.
Definitely, there's no scientificness behind art, obviously. So I want to ask, households normally know Chuck Norris, right? So what is the thought behind Chakalaka Norris? Chuck Norris would be more your masculine guy and so forth, and I feel like Chakalaka Norris is more borderlining to less masculine and so forth. Can you just take us through that?
Do you want to?
Yeah, sure thing. So obviously, as the campaign kind of required us, is to obviously it required us to launch a new NPD, a spicy NPD. And part of the framework that we developed as a creative idea was to come up with a character that really represents the kind of nation that we are, that like looks at spice as drama as opposed to a typical flavor cue. So in developing that sort of character and that identity for this NPD, this character came about who was quite flamboyant, non-masculine, sort of gender bending, if you want to say that. But long story short, I think it was us coming up with that, and then the name was kind of almost secondary. You know, at the end of the day, the name Chakalaka Norris came from, Chakalaka is spicy. If you've had it, you'll know. But I think the relationship to Norris was that sort of command that Chuck Norris has, the command, the strength, and we wanted to make sure that, like, however we present this character, that it's a name that again resonates with people, but also still speaks to like our authentic South African voice.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that a little bit. It's important to stress that the idea was there already, and we kind of, and the name, I think Kevin just said it kind of off the cuff one day, Chakalaka Norris. It gave us a way into defining him, you know. So to answer your question, getting to that point, it was almost like we worked backwards. We developed the idea, and then Chakalaka Norris was just the packaging that we put it all in, or that character specifically.
What was the most challenging part of this campaign, in crafting this campaign?
Internet connection. No, not serious. But seriously, I think the most challenging part was just making sure that like all the various stakeholders in the campaign like are happy, and that I guess everyone's like, for lack of a better word, happy with like the result. Making sure that Nando's food looks appetizing and I guess follows their guidelines, and same thing with our brand, making sure that everything we put out there follows our brand tone of voice and sensibility.
Yeah, managing the stakeholders. I think the TVC is the thing that could have caught a lot of people's attention. But there's a broader campaign, you know, and with that, there's on any campaign, there's like a lot of people involved in that process, and that's a difficult thing to manage. But then you have the additional layer of Nando's and their brand team and the partner agency. So there are more expectations that need to be met in a collab. So that was challenging. But you know, I think I'd also like to point out to the point that we made right in the beginning, just finding a way to not make it feel like a gimmick. You know, the collaboration, to make it feel organic, to make it feel like tonally, like it works, it's right. That was from the outset, like the thing that we really wanted to do well, because there could be the temptation to, you know, kind of get a bit lazy on something like this, because Savannah is iconic, Nando's is iconic, and then you kind of don't put the work into to like get it perfect. We didn't want to fall into that trap. We wanted to make it feel very organic and just make it feel like a collab that made sense. So that was also a massive challenge for us.
Let's take it to the copywriting of it, the script rather, where Chakalaka Norris says, whether you drink it or you don't, I don't care. Take us through the thought process of that.
That was crazy. That's one of those lines that, or one of those things that is, as creatives, you don't think you're going to get away with. But you know, sometimes you just put your ideal vision out there, and then, you know, if it flies, it flies. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the thought process there really was, look, it's chili, it's spicy. He's the spiciest guy, you know, in South Africa. He represents all our spiciness, and that was just a way to dock that. You know, in the end, he's Chakalaka Norris, and he really doesn't care whether you like him or not, you know. That was just to kind of put a full stop on that attitude that we were trying to get him to bring, and he did bring.
If I can also add, with any new product launch, you always know that like feedback is going to be 50-50. Some people will like it, some people won't. And that was part of the thinking also, is that like, we know that there's going to be haters and there's going to be the lovers as well. But really at the end of the day, drink it or don't. you could not be bothered.
Yeah, that's
You don't care,
you know,
literally.
that's the attitude that Chill Chili embodies.
Yeah.
You know? And that the idea in the campaign embodies.
That's spice.
Would you say the industry needs more of these kind of brand collabs?
Like these kind of collaborations that happen between such iconic brands only, I guess, foster like stronger relationships amongst those brands, but they also challenge the rest of the industry to, I guess, take risks, do things that like you wouldn't expect. It only like enhances each brand to see them like target each other's consumers and find those kind of combos that work for their consumers. Because I think the brand manager from Nando's did mention that like you find sometimes that like there's cross-pollination even in your consumers, you know what I mean? So I think it's one of those things where brands need to take that risk, and when the collaboration makes sense and it's right, don't be afraid to do it. And also another point on representation, I think the kind of queer representation that we put forward in this piece is also something to kind of shout out a little bit, you know, because it is lacking in the industry, and for it to come through in such a major and such an organic way, for us is, I think...
Tell us what it was like working with two iconic big brands.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly dope, is the word I would use, but also like an honor, man. It's like, I think as creatives, you get into this industry and there are a few brands that really, you know, if you get to work on it one day, like it'd be good for you, be good for your career. In this case, this for us, it was like two of those brands in one campaign. So that's really special. It was just, it was an honor, a lot of pressure, but yeah, really dope. And yeah, we're really grateful for that opportunity.
Feeling of relief, feeling of sadness, feeling of?
Dopeness, yeah.
If I can also add, like, I guess it's like a major feeling of gratitude to have that kind of opportunity sit on our laps, you know. I think we've been working on the brand, Savannah brand, for a bit now. So we're kind of used to like sort of the brand presence that it has on social media and in public and in general, right? But then to kind of add on the Nando's flag onto that, it's like, whoa, dude, this is some major stuff. Like you are literally talking about two power hitters in the industry, you know, in the game, and that kind of control and that kind of freedom also that the brand teams have allowed us to do. There's no other word to express this other than gratitude.
What do you think made this campaign a success?
So what made this campaign a success? I think in the end of the day, people connected with it, and like what went into that from our point of view, that's like we can't really pinpoint that. We work towards our brand tone. Obviously, Nando's has got a brand tone, so we try to accommodate that. And so you work towards what you think is right, but at the end of the day, it's like we don't determine whether it works or not. The audience does, and they seem to like really love it. So you know that's success. What we put into it is just process. Success is determined by the audience.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I think the other thing that makes a campaign successful, in my opinion, is the relevance. Like, it's relevant to the target audience. It speaks to a lot of South African truths. And yeah, I mean, there's multiple content forms part of the campaign, which you should go watch. But I do think, though, that like, through all those different touch points that we talk to, and even on social media and the kind of engagement that we're pushing with our consumers, it's really just speaking true to our brand tone and our brand sort of persona right now of Savannah, South Africa. Like, we get you, you know. So I think that's where the success comes in, is that it's actually talking to the people that matter, the consumers.
Is the Savannah part of the copywriting process? Or the
it's an overarching
campaign.
It's an overarching a messaging construct for us, but it's also an objective. We have to, in everything we do, it needs to feel Savannah. It needs to feel like to the audience, like we're speaking directly to them and that we get them and understand them. So it is a part of our messaging, but for us as a creative team, as an agency, it's also bigger than that. It's like our mantra. It's what we're working towards.
Thank you very much, guys, for coming or honoring our invite. It's been great listening to you, your insights on how you actually put this campaign together.
Through the line. Advertising underlined. Through the line. Advertising underlined.
Next, we are joined by Savannah's marketing manager, Eugene Lansford, to tell us more about the campaign.
Through the line. Advertising underlined.
Eugene, give us insight as to why and how the collaboration between the two brands and what made it necessary.
Yes, so firstly, thanks for having me. And I think probably one of the biggest reasons for, partnering with Nando's is that, people have been talking about Savannah and Nando's doing things for years. If I look at, two brands, before my time on Savannah and during my time on Savannah, there's been two brands that's really been uplifting a nation through humor and comedy, and really having a perspective, a light-hearted perspective on societal norms within South Africa, and that being Nando's and Savannah. So that was obviously the first reason. Two very big comedy heavyweight brands coming together in collaboration. And then two, in terms of this new product and brand and variant which we wanted to create, the insight around that was that South Africans love spice, be it the weather, be it food, be it drinks, be it in South Africans' innate way of communicating. What better brand fit than Savannah and Nando's coming together?
How did the conversation go for both parties on agreeing on collaborating?
I actually think it's one of those conversations that probably both parties were wanting to have on a different occasion or on different campaigns, but nobody actually, ever came to the party and actually created something from either end. And I think while we were busy with this process, we engaged with WPP and Liquid, our lead agency, and we found some common personalities that have worked across both Savannah and Nando's. And we just decided to pitch what we have, in terms of what we're trying to do with this new campaign. And I must admit, from the initial meeting, it was extremely very respectful. We both listened to each other. And I think from Savannah's perspective, the one thing that we went in with was that we are not trying to sell a variant to you, sell a campaign to you. We want you to be involved and have your opinion and your creative flair on this as well. So I think that was the angle we went in with, and I found it extremely collaborative, from working with the Nando's brand team, but also, the communication and collaboration with Nando's and the agency team as well.
They say that it was your brainchild, Savannah. How did it come about?
Yeah, I think for two reasons. I think, firstly, when we do look at innovation, we try to look at it a lot different than from, mainstream flavors or what we do know from RTD brands and what is currently in the market. We'd like to take it a bit more further, and we are South Africa's most loved cider, but I'd also think we are South Africa's most innovative cider. So we look at it from a functional benefit in terms of, what does the liquid and the drink actually taste like? And how does that personality actually come alive, within a campaign? So the first reason was we know South Africans love spice, and what we called this brand was, and the call to action was spicy but chilled. So there's hints of chili and ginger, and we know how much South Africans love spice, but how much they actually love ginger. And we have brands like Stoney, which is, for decades long, been successful within South Africa. So that combination intrinsically was exceptional, and it still kept that crisp and dry taste, of what South Africans love in terms of Savannah. And then in terms of the campaign, when you really want to dial up the spiciest nation in South Africa, the best partner for us for this campaign was, and to build the Chakalaka Norris brand was Nando's.
How did you manage to get two agencies together in one room to both finesse the representation of each brand and what they represent?
So I think firstly, it was for us to have a meeting with Nando's brand team, to show them what our campaign potentially looks like from a Savannah perspective. And then secondly, it was, to really understand and show them what Savannah South Africa means for us. So when we say we get you South Africa, how is this actually going to be an amazing consumer-facing collaboration for both brands? And once we've got that buy-in, we were able to get their input, get their recommendations, and excuse the pun, but show how this actually lives through the line. Because I think many brands have done social banter collaboration before, but for us, we really wanted to take this a lot further, from social platforms to traditional media to in-store. And I think once they saw that, we've thought about this, their creative flair with their agencies also pulled through. And there was a massive, strong collaboration between their agency and our community management as well.
Do you think the industry needs more of these kinds of brand collaborations?
Yes, 100%. Firstly, I think, when brands collaborate that have similarities not only in their tone of voice or in what consumers are looking for, it adds so much more value and positive upliftment, to South Africa. The likes of Nando's and Savannah collaborating created so much positivity within the country, and I think uplifting that a nation through positive, reinforcement from brands, is only going to strengthen how brands perform for longevity.
What do you think this sort of advertising will bring to the industry?
I think it will make it, firstly, a lot more exciting. I think, we've gone through a lot of changes and different mediums of marketing channels that have worked, and the rise of the likes of, TikTok and Twitter, etc. But I think, we've seen this collaboration happen between brands before, but just on a social collaboration perspective. But I think this collaboration between Nando's and Savannah is so much different because it was completely through the line at every touch point. So from social banter right through to, the TV ad and right through to in-store. And I think once you get that through the line collaboration, it really adds value, firstly, to consumers. Secondly, it uplifts the nation through humor, which we've done. And then thirdly, the talkability around two brands collaborating creates so much positivity and upliftment amongst the nation.
Why the knack for this flavor, chili chilled, with so many flavors in the line?
Yes, so I think, as I mentioned earlier on, we really take a different look on innovation, differently from what the mainstream flavors that are out there, which are mostly, fruit-based flavors.
Yep.
So we looked at something that was a little bit more innovative, that's very inherently South African. And we looked at chili, firstly, because we know how much South Africans love spice in their attitude, but also in their food, how they perceive it, when it comes to weather, and also in their drinks. So chili, and we said spicy but chilled with hints of chili and ginger. And ginger because we also know how much South Africans love, the likes of Stony and those type of variants. So what we did was we created a variant which keeps the same profile of Savannah's crisp and dry liquid, still has those hints of chili and ginger, which we know South Africans do enjoy.
Just unpack for us, why would you approach Nando's as opposed to, let's say, a Chicken Licken, as they are known to be very famous in the hot wings kind of space?
Chicken Licken is doing some amazing work, within the industry. But I think, one of the biggest reasons for us is, just taking it back to Savannah, South Africa. The one part that we really try to do is when we say Savannah, South Africa, it means we get you South Africa. So we listen to what our consumers are talking about, looking for, and it's up to us, to make those decisions that we know that they are looking for. And one of that was always, the association between Savannah and Nando's. Point number one. Point number two, we are very much about uplifting a nation through humor and supporting the comedy industry, and we've done that for decades. And that's something that Nando's has done exceptionally well, to the same level as Savannah. So looking at two brands with very much a similar identity within South Africa, uplifting a nation through humor, through societal norms within South Africa, just felt like the perfect fit for these two brands to collaborate on something like Savannah.
Who exactly is the target audience? Would it be your LGBTI community, or is it a unisex drink, as we see a lot of referencing to homosexuality?
So I think just to put it out there, right up front, Savannah is an all-inclusive brand, and I think we are representative of South Africa. We're inclusive, we're diverse, and this drink is exceptionally unisex. When it comes to gender, when it comes to race, when it comes to orientation, when it comes to age. When we say Savannah, South Africa, we mean we get the entire South Africa, not just, any specific gender or race. It's meant for everyone.
Whether you drink it or not, I don't care. That line, what was the thought process? Did you approve that, or was it just an agency kind of creative route?
No, I think it's an amazing line for this campaign. No, I think we spoke so much about the intrinsic qualities of Savannah Chilled Chili, but I think the campaign and the personality that we created around Chakalaka Norris and the insight around, South Africa being one of the most spiciest nations in the world, that line just encapsulates, not only the personality of the variant that we created, but also, the personality of Chakalaka Norris in this ad. So I thought it was a brilliant line to use to end off with, and also creates that intrigue and spiciness that South Africans can relate to.
Savannah, South Africa is a tagline that is ubiquitous everywhere on your social media platforms. Tell us more about the thought process behind this line.
Yeah, I think the one point that I've harped on a bit here was Savannah, but I think it is so entrenched, in South African culture. So if we get you and we as a brand say that, we really need to listen to what consumers are saying, are talking about, can relate to, and do engage with. And I think Savannah, South Africa has been something that our community has been engaging with, for the last 3 years. And it's something that will stay with Savannah for the upcoming future, because it encompasses all our campaigns that we've done. So we've done, through lockdown, we've had Savannah non-alc, which was still in the market, and we created campaigns around Arrive Alive, COVID safety messaging with Demi Demi. We then launched the Take a Sabbatical, Njolo 101, Dollars for the Dollar, Live Like an Influencer. So all of these things encapsulate Savannah, South Africa, and we get you. So we understand all of these, complexities and talk and engagement points that are happening amongst our consumer base. So I think it will continue, and I think it's been driven probably in the last three and a half to 3 years.
Are we likely to see more of these co-branding on billboards and other mediums of communication that show both brands on a visual representation for this particular campaign?
So not in terms of out-of-home or billboards, but what I can tell you that from a social media perspective and from a Nando's in-store perspective and from a Savannah perspective, you'll see it. But who knows what happens in the future and what more collaborations do occur between Savannah and Nando's.
The pandemic didn't seem to affect your spend and brand presence. Why do you think that is? What makes Savannah what it is, resilient when most are folding?
I think I'll go back to your first point. I think the one point is definitely creativity, and the second is in terms of how you approach it. So 2.5 years ago when lockdown started and the pandemic hit, one of our biggest areas that we wanted to do was, uplift the nation through humor, but tangibly support comedians. We've been supporting the comedy industry for so long. And when the pandemic hit, it really stopped comedians from doing what they love, standing up and, entertaining South Africa. So we created the Savannah Virtual Comedy Bar. So that allowed us to have a voice socially and take the medicine of laughter, to consumers on their couches and employ comedians. That's point number one. And point number two, we still had Savannah non-alcoholic in the market, which also had a voice, which allowed consumers to still have that status appeal of a premium apple crisp cider like Savannah. So we still communicated throughout lockdown, but in a responsible manner. And we also made sure we had a voice around, COVID safety messaging, which we thought was extremely important. So our spend didn't increase. Our creativity and direction in terms of what content we put out there did change. So I think that was a massive positive for us, but it was really related to what Savannah stands for and in our tone of voice.
Thank you very much, Eugene, for sharing those nuggets with us. It just opens up our mind as to what actually happened behind the campaign. Until we meet again.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, and our creatives, as well as a special thanks to our guests that joined us on the show. I am your host, Kanya Mali. Until next time.
Through the line. Advertising underlined.